What's up guys, it's Chris Majestic, and today we're checking out some more Wi-Fi 7 gear. So a couple months ago we had the chance to test out Wi-Fi 7 with all its insane features and speeds. Well, today we're checking out another Wi-Fi 7 router, and this one is made by Eero. Alright, so what are we looking at today? Well, today we have with us the Eero Max 7. I'd say Eero is known for making simple and reliable mesh routers for the average user, but with Max in the name, you can already tell it's going to be quite different from what we normally see from Eero. So today we have the 3-pack version of the Max 7, and right off the bat I want to say that these are definitely the biggest access points that we've seen from Eero. Most of this is because of the way Wi-Fi 7 antennas are designed, which is why all the Wi-Fi 7 access points are pretty big. The 3-pack comes with 3 identical units, and it looks like Eero addressed one of my biggest complaints about their previous systems, which was the lack of Ethernet ports. So each of these units has 4 Ethernet ports for a total of 12 ports across all 3 units. And not only that, but they actually included 2 2.5 gig Ethernet ports and 2 10 gigabit Ethernet ports. So not only will this support internet connections up to 10 gigabits per second, but it'll also allow you to connect a 10 gig client device, or you can have a 10 gig backhaul connection between the access points if you can wire them together. So after seeing this, I think it's fair to say that the Max 7 is living up to its name so far, but what else is this thing holding up its sleeve? Well, if you didn't know, for the past year or so, Eero has actually been including a Zigbee controller in their wireless access points. This basically means that these are not only wireless access points, but they're also smart home hubs that allow you to directly connect all sorts of cool sensors and wireless smart home devices directly to them, which is pretty cool. And Eero has actually taken this a step further. So not only do they have a Zigbee controller built in, but they also have built-in support for Thread, Matter, and Bluetooth Low Energy 5.0, which is a pretty big deal. And if you're not familiar with Thread or Matter, these are new smart home communication standards that promise to improve the smart home experience by standardizing the communication so you don't need a separate hub for every smart home device in your house. And aside from the smart home features, this system has what Eero calls True Mesh. This allows the mesh access points to connect to each other wirelessly and automatically determine the best backhaul connection, which is going to provide that great reliability that we've come to expect from Eero. Alright, so enough talk about specs. I'm sure you guys are eager to see how this thing performs, so we're going to run some speed tests, but before I get into that, I want to take a quick moment to talk about today's video sponsor. So considering how busy I am, I regularly find myself ordering takeout, which is not the healthiest option and definitely not cheap. Well, today's sponsor is exactly what I've been looking for. Factor is a meal delivery service that delivers fresh, never frozen meals right to your doorstep. And not only do they taste amazing, but they've already done the work for you since the meals are already fully prepared, so you don't have to spend a bunch of time prepping and cleaning up. You just throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes and you're ready to go. Now you might be wondering how this is different from a frozen dinner, and I thought the exact same thing, but once I took my first bite, I realized that the fresh ingredients make all the difference. So here I have the cheesy bacon ranch shredded chicken, and I was actually surprised at how good it was. Now I've worked with HelloFresh in the past and I had a great experience, and Factor is actually owned by HelloFresh and they have a wider array of meal plans to choose from. So they have meals for pretty much everybody, including low calorie options, keto, vegan, high protein, and more. They even have breakfast as well as juices, shakes, and smoothies. So to get started with Factor today, go to factor75.com and use code MAJESTIC50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Again, that's factor75.com and code MAJESTIC50, or you can use the link in the video description. I want to thank Factor for sponsoring this portion of today's video, and let's get back to the Wi-Fi test. Alright, so it's time to test out this system, and now is a good time to talk really briefly about the setup process. I want to say Eero has the easiest and possibly the fastest setup process compared to most wireless routers. Once I unboxed the system and plugged it in, I was up and running in less than 3 minutes. And the Eero app is really intuitive and easy to use. I do wish there were a bit more customization options in the app, but the settings that most people are looking for are all there, and they have a nice explanation for each setting. And to test out these units, I will be using my own internal speed test server instead of using my external internet connection. This will ensure that we can see the fastest speeds this thing is capable of regardless of what internet connection you have. Another thing you should know is that there are very few Wi-Fi 7 client devices out there, so we're likely not going to see the absolute fastest speeds that they can offer since there doesn't appear to be any desktop computer network cards out yet. But I do have a Wi-Fi 7 phone that I've been using to test out all the Wi-Fi 7 routers. Alright guys, so I'm standing in the kitchen for our very first test, and that's that's because this is close to being in the center of my house. So I want to see the fastest speeds that we can get from this thing. Oh my God, this thing is flying. We're at 35. And again, this is measured in megabits. So this is gonna be 3.5 gigabits per second. So we got 3470, which is absolutely incredible. Let's see what we get on the upload, and it looks like we're gonna almost match it. We got exactly 3. Wow, that is absolutely impressive. All right, so now I'm gonna go across the room about 35 feet away and see if it makes a difference. So I know with 6 gigahertz bands, it can be a little temperamental when you add some distance because it's not great on distance, but we are still rock and rolling right now. So we are at what? Is it gonna end up over 2? So we're gonna get 2680, so 2.6, almost 2.7 gigs a second, which is crazy. Again, we're about 35 feet away. Let's see what we get on the upload. All right, so on the upload, we're gonna be at 1764, which is still over a gig. So these are pretty good speeds for us to be this far away. Now I wanna go 2 rooms away, so we'll see how it performs going through some walls. All right, so now we're on the other side of the house going through a wall, and again, we're about 35 feet away from the router. So let's see how it performs when we don't have line of sight. And it looks like we're gonna actually get better speeds here. This is crazy. So we are at 2.6 gigs a second, almost 2.7 gigabits per second. Come on, keep going. Let's see what we get on the upload. I was expecting this to be under a gig. This is pretty impressive. Over a gig, we're at 1.2 gigs a second. All right, so those speeds were pretty good, but now I wanna add a little bit of a challenge and go down in the basement and see how it performs going 1 floor down about 40 feet away from it. All right, so now we're in the home theater in the basement, and this is the spot that separates the men from the boys. So let's go ahead and run a speed test here and see what we get here. This thing is almost at 2 gigs a second. This is insane. So we're at almost 1.8. Where's it gonna end up at? 1.7? We're gonna be at 1.7 gigs a second, almost 1.8. Absolutely crazy. Let's see what we get on the upload. So I expect the upload to be significantly slower. Let's see what we get. Half a gigabit, so 500 megabits per second. That is still a really good connection that I don't think anybody would complain about. But now we're gonna go for the torture test. So we're gonna go outside and see what we get out there in the driveway. Now, again, as I always say in these Wi-Fi videos, the driveway is the Bermuda Triangle of Wi-Fi. We normally, some devices don't even get a signal out there. So let's see what we get out there. Now, again, we're still connected to Wi-Fi 7, but as I mentioned earlier in the video, I have no way of determining which band it connects to. So it could decide to be on 6 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. I have no way in the Aero app to change that. So we'll see if it still carries through the 6 gigahertz band when I get outside. I'm not sure what we're gonna see. All right, so now we're outside in the driveway. Hopefully it's not too noisy out here with the traffic, but I wanna do a quick test real quick to see if we're still connected to 6 gigahertz or if it's at 5. Yeah, it says it's 288 megs a second. I think this is actually gonna be 5 gigahertz, but we can run a speed test just to see. So when I show the charts later in the video, you're probably gonna see a blank here for 6 gigahertz because it's not connected to 6. But either way, we'll see what we get here. Yeah, these speeds are definitely not the same. Let's see what we end up getting though. This is still very usable though. I don't think anybody would complain with a device connecting at 300 megs a second. Let's see. So we are at 304 megabits per second. That is still a really good connection. Now the upload on the other hand, let's see what we get here. Okay, that's still really good. Not bad. It's dropping a bit, bouncing around, but it's still usable for sure. So that's definitely not the super fast speeds that we saw in the house, but that's the thing about 6 gigahertz. It's gonna have that extra bandwidth, but it's not gonna give you the same distance that you get with 5 gigahertz and definitely not 2.4 gigahertz. But again, still 300 megs a second down and 54 up is pretty good. All right, guys, so now we are back down in the basement, and the reason I'm here again is because I wanna run another speed test here since this is where we got the worst speeds. But what I wanna do this time is add one of the mesh access points down here, just put it right down here somewhere in this general area so we can see what happens when we add this in an area where you have a signal that's lower than what you want it to be. So again, we have pretty good speeds here. They weren't terrible, but I do wanna see what happens when we add one of these guys. So let's go ahead and run a speed test here now that we've done this and see what kind of speeds we get. Now on the download side, it looks like we're actually not quite as fast as we were before, right around 765, almost 766 megs a second. Now that's a really fast connection, but not quite the same as what we had. Now on the upload, on the other hand, we're getting a way better upload speed. That's almost triple what we saw before, if I believe. So with the mesh access point on the download, we got slower speeds, but on the upload, we got significantly faster speeds. All right, so here you can see all the speed tests compiled into a few charts, and you can feel free to pause the video here if you want to take a longer look at it. Overall, I think the Eero Max 7 performed really well. It wasn't quite as fast as some of the other Wi-Fi 7 routers I've tested, but again, Eero is almost never the fastest, but they are one of the most reliable, which is more important to some people. All right, so we've talked all about how cool this system system is, but one of the most important things to consider is cost. So how much is it? Well, as I said, this is the 3-pack system that I have with me here, and this is easily the most expensive Eero system to date, with a staggering retail price of $1,700 for 3 units, $1,150 for 2, and $600 for 1. Now, of course, this is incredibly expensive, but I think even large homes would be fine with just 1 or 2 units. All right, so now that we got the insane price out of the way, how do I feel about this system? Well, honestly, I feel the same way about this system as I do with most Eero mesh systems. Eero systems are great for people who are looking for simplicity and reliability. And aside from the price, the only other real downside is that the added simplicity can actually be considered a bad thing, since there aren't really many advanced settings in the app. Considering the audience for this type of system is usually going to be tech nerds or possibly somebody who's looking for bleeding edge technology, I think they should have included a bit more professional features in it. Now, I don't necessarily think any of this is a deal breaker, but I do think a few more options would make it even better. Overall, as I said earlier, I think the biggest benefit of Wi-Fi 7 is for a better backhaul connection for mesh Wi-Fi systems, and the Eero Max 7 definitely benefits from it and performs better than any other Eero system I've tested so far. So if you're looking for the simplest system with the easiest setup process, but you also want the latest and greatest wireless technology and smart home features, and you've got deep pockets, then the Eero Max 7 might be perfect for you. But if you're looking for a bit more customization, or you want speeds faster than what you saw in this video, and you don't mind giving up a bit on reliability or smart home features, then you might benefit from another system. But that's gonna pretty much do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, as always, go ahead and make sure you mash that like button for me, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Only about 10% of you guys that usually watch this video are gonna be subscribed to the channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.